What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the Field Podcast. It's your boy KJ. I got my boy B over here with me. We also got our special guest. This guy, he was a graduate class of 2002 Westfield High School. Then went on to play football at Arkansas on scholarship. He did great things there. He was all SEC team in his senior year. He also was the AP All-American as well, second team. He also got drafted by the Indianapolis Colts as well in the 2007 draft. Second round, 42nd pick. Did some great things there. Went on to play on different few teams. Also with the New York Giants Super Bowl team that beat the Patriots. I don't know how I feel about that, but man, I'm gonna let the show roll. We got Tony, Ugoh in the building. Yes, sir, man. Appreciate you coming out here, showing us some love.
Yeah, man.
As always, like B.
Gonna take them to the field, baby.
Yeah, for sure.
Look, this ain't about me. It's about your experiences at the field. We got a great dude. Definitely somebody that I looked up to when I was younger. In football at Westfield, really ain't had nobody really to physically, inspire me to aspire to be somebody greater than where I was at that point, especially a male role model at Westfield. But this dude here, he definitely put he lit a fire in me to do the right things and start making better decisions. Like me and B joked around last time on the last show. We was some little nugget freshman year, but you got guys like, Tony who'll come, he'll speak some knowledge to you, and you know what, he dropped some seeds, and you know what, I got myself together, and I told him, like, I just want to give him his flowers, definitely now, not later, definitely kicking out the podcast with somebody that, the reason I'm doing it because he used to always come back into the community. That's all he wanted to do, build up the community, and man, like I said, man, I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man. Yeah, always love.
Man, so I guess we got to just see how your experience was at the field. That's always the first one. Let's talk about them years.
Yeah, so my experience at Westfield was great. I always tell people it is what you make of it. I made the most of it when I was there. It was I was very blessed to come in and have some good coaches. So my old line coach was Coach Scott. We had Coach Nelson when I was a little bit younger. He moved on to go the AP route and then moved on the principal side. But Coach Scott stayed there, all 4 years. My freshman year, starting off, things were good, just on the freshman A team, trying to get adjusted to the high school, high school life, high school things. And this is just sports, that we're talking about now. So I can go back and kind of touch on academic side of things, but so that was good. Sophomore year, I actually faced a little bit of adversity. So my sophomore year, I got my first real injury. Okay. So it started off great. Like, okay, I'm a sophomore, made the varsity team, but it was just kind of one of those things, okay, I'm going to be kind of a backup, role player wherever they needed me. I'm still really young, but at the same time, they saw potential. But I ended up getting hurt like early in the year. Ended up tearing my meniscus, and then I was pretty much out the rest of the year. So the rest of the year rehabbing. So I didn't really get anything done like my sophomore year, but was still, around. I got to like practice about half the season, I think, before I had the injury. But then that's kind of where because in my mind I was like, man, I'm gonna try to make it to college and I'm gonna try to make it to the pros, and football was like my thing. Then I got injured, and I was just like, man, like, I might not, like, this may not happen,
Yeah.
Because it's like, it was a major injury. Like I had, got my first surgery, knee scope, and I think at this time I'm like 15. So I'm just kind of like, going under the knife at 15. Yeah. Football was supposed to be my thing. Yeah. And it's just like, okay, my knee's already messed up. So I'm like, okay, well, I need to really, really focus on academics. So, it was kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time. But it was more so a blessing because it really kind of opened my eyes to be like, yo, like, everybody says football doesn't last forever, but that was my eye opener at 15 to be like, yo, bro, you better have a plan B because, plan A, it may not happen, and so I got super serious, my sophomore year. like in the books, and you know, I was already in like, you know, honors class, stuff like that. But I'm like, okay, I gotta, you know, probably not gonna be playing football, so I gotta get this academic scholarship. So I was always big, you know, from then, you know, on, or even before then. But that's when it was really like serious on the academic side. You know, but then, you know, after that, you know, I think that's the infamous year we went 0-10.
Yeah,
You know,
I
under
remember
Coach.
hearing about it. I ain't gonna lie.
Not too many people.
I heard about it. Man, that's the school I'm going to. Man, I'll start looking at other schools. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Look, I was looking at other. Oh, and man, I can't go to no school. Damn, I'm gonna go.
I don't think, there's not too many people. I don't even think, I mean, there's a lot of high schools in the world, and there's not too many people that can say like, oh yeah, you know, we went 0-10. Like, you can at least sneak one game, maybe two, but like we didn't get any games. Like
the scrimmage. That's the scrimmage.
We lost ourselves in the scrimmage. Man. So I'm like, it was crazy. We had a good team. You know, like I said, you know, Coach Bill was a coach at the time, and I guess it just, you know, it just probably didn't mesh or whatever. But you know, but it was, once again, it was a fortunate thing for me because, you know, then going into my junior year, that off season is when we got Coach Lynch and then Coach Meekins. You know, both Coach Meekins came over, and that was all a blessing because they literally, we went from 0-10, we lost a lot of people that year, and then we came back the next year and we went 6-4 in the regular season, made the playoffs, and then ended up going, I believe, 6-5. We lost in the first round of playoffs to, I think, like Cy Falls or Cy Fair or something. But we went from not making the playoffs at all my first 2 years to like, dang, like we can actually, you know, we can actually do this, you know? And so, you know, I think that was the eye opener. Of course, everybody bought into the system, but that was like that was a huge turnaround because in, like, you know, going in, you know, as my junior year, going into my senior year, you know, guys like me, we had Bo Carr, you know, was great running back. We had some key guys on defense.
Was Brent? Was it Brent Curvey?
Curvey was there. He was a year younger.
Iowa State.
Yeah, he was a year younger than me, but he definitely played a role. There we had a squad. You know, we had a squad, and so like we really, you know, under, you know, I don't want to say it was just me, but you know, it was me and, you know, probably a few other key guys were just like, look, you know, y'all see how we did, y'all see where we came from, like. We can do this thing, you know, and we really bought in that off season. Everybody was in there. Everybody. It wasn't like, you know, you got to make everybody come. Like, no, everybody was in there. Everybody was pushing. Yeah. Everybody was doing their thing. Like, man, we made the playoffs. Like, man, let's try to make a run for it. And I think at the time we didn't really know how good we were, but we knew, like, man, we could, you know, we can kind of do something, you know, and so, you know, that was really good at the time. And then, like, we went the next year. I think we lost the first game to Humble. And I remember we lost our first game to Humble, and I thought Coach was going to kill us when we came back. We ran like 16 100s, and I was just like, man, like that's all we did in the practice. I was just like, oh my goodness. And hey, we didn't lose again until we lost to Lufkin, you know, in like the quarter. So it's just like, we went on a roll after that, and it was just like, man, we were just, you know, winning. We finished the season 9-1. And then we went 4 rounds deep because we were in a small bracket. We lost to Lufkin in overtime. Reggie McNeil. They had Jew Parks, I want to say, at D tackle. Man. So they had a squad too. But like I said, we lost to them in overtime. We played the closest game to them out of everybody. And we literally just, I mean, like we had that game. We had, you know, some things happen. We kind of lost that game, you know, not taking anything away from Lufkin, but we had some plays that, you know, kind of set us back. But like, I mean, that was our year to actually win state. Because if we got through Lufkin rolled through the next team, rolled through the team after them, and we were the only one that took them to overtime. So,
and was them the Vince Young years too?
Vince Young,
Did they?
Yeah, they were. I think Vince was in the big bracket that year.
Okay. So that's when I ain't gonna lie. Up to that point, I didn't know about Westfield. I mean, we probably was next door, and my brother probably went to Westfield. But for us football,
I think that was the year we kind of.
But then I was like, because I heard about the 0 and 10. Then it was that. Then I was like, okay. I said, okay. I said, all right. It might be some. So nah, I definitely remember that time.
Yeah. So I think that was definitely, that wasn't the year that, the 6-5 year was the year that started, but then that was the year that kicked off. Because then after that, it was like, this is what was expected.
Yeah.
And it kind of built that prestige for Westfield that we didn't really have before.
Yeah.
Like, it's always like every year we start, like, we going to play, and that's not like we just gonna get to the playoffs and be out the first round. Like, nah, we expect to be 3-4 rounds deep every year, and we've had some rebuilding years. I think a couple in between the time I left, from 2002 to now. I think it might have been only like 3 years.
Maybe I know it was one
3.
for sure. It was one. It was one.
Yeah.
Then I know they lost like the early first round. Like they got.
I think it was like somewhere.
It was like
around,
It was. I don't know who they lost to.
Yeah.
But it was quick.
Yeah.
I was like, man, first round.
Yeah.
The first round, like.
Yeah.
What we do that at?
Yeah.
Like that, but this after the years of building, like what y'all was building. So I'll tell you right now, you can see how them teams was because you could go to the weight room.
Yeah.
And I remember walking, they were like lifting weights in a hallway, like in the closet. I was like, man, what is going on? Is this Westfield?
Yeah.
Man, I was like, I said, okay. I see how the gray shirt, black shorts, just straight this tape on your hand. You got your little baby powder in there because you trying to, belts everywhere.
Tell your hands.
Man, rusty weights. Even a little curveball, the pads on it be all messed up. I was like, boy, this is okay. All right, but this what it is. So I was always tell people like, man, it was before we got there. I know I hear the stories and just telling everything that's going on that was there. I mean, I appreciate everything we had regardless.
Yeah.
And then when they did the weight room over, I said, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. They put the mirrors on there, had pride everywhere. I mean, man, I ain't gonna lie, it was a big change, but that happened.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's grown a lot, and I mean that's good because definitely the kids deserve it. And I think that kind of comes with the territory. When you're expected to do some good things, and you probably get some good things in return for that. And so it kind of keeps building, and so. Yeah, I mean, definitely it's a blessing that I've been a part of, the original crew that kind of kicked those things off and, kind of seeing it's crazy to come from where we came from to now, like, man, like they got their own little complex. Like they got their own building, weight room upstairs, glass, see outside. I'm like, bro, it's completely, we were,
And that's what I was going to ask you. When you first came back and you seen stuff change like that, what was your thought?
I was excited, bro. I was just like, man, because I mean, it's just like, it was, to me, that was big time. I know now it's just like people are doing things way, some high schools like, up in Dallas have like indoor facilities and stuff. It's like, it's crazy, right?
They got different type of money. They paying different type of taxes.
Yeah. But now it was good, especially because, I mean, in the area that, we grew up in, it's just like, you don't expect to have, nice things. And that was one of the things. It's like, that pride was huge because it's like, man, you could be proud of this, And so it's just like, because you could be somewhere else and not have anything half as good. So, it just, kind of comes with it. So, yeah, it was good to, be able to go back and then see kind of how, things have developed. But I just think the game in general, because, even when I go to college, every time I go back to Arkansas, it's crazy.
You just there recently?
Yeah. I went recently, and it's crazy, man. Like, they got a whole new facility, and same thing for them. Like, the weight room we had back then, and it's just like I was a part of. I don't want to say I was a part of, when, but like during the whole Coach Nut era, I think it's kind of where things kind of kicked off, and we had that prestige. I want to say like my senior year. There, I think it was kind of the same thing like Westfield. We lost, I want to say the first game to USC, and then we didn't lose again.
Y'all won the SEC that year, right?
Yeah, I think we lost to, I think we beat LSU, and then we lost to Florida, in the SEC championship.
Okay. I know y'all
And
played.
then
Okay.
and then we lost to. But once again, I think that Florida team was stacked.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Florida team, they were stacked. So and once
I
again,
know
we
Tebow.
should have won that game.
Yeah.
But it's like we had a couple of things that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they was later, but I know they Tebow team was good, but that team, but the team y'all.
Yeah, we had.
That's what I'm saying.
They were good. But once again, we should have won that game. But like I said, there were a couple of things we did. We cost ourselves a game. That we had a muff punt that they recovered like inside the 10, and it's just like, and we lost by six points or whatever. And so it's like we were supposed to have no chance against them, and and I think we lost in the bowl game to Wisconsin. So. But yeah, it kind of just, that whole thing, I don't want to say it mirrored because we didn't go 0-10, but, they had a prestige, I think, because I want to say my senior year, I think they played either my senior, my junior year, I think, is when it was like OU versus Arkansas. Those were the two teams that, offered me, OU was my first scholarship offer in my junior year, and then my second offer was from Arkansas. And I think that year they played each other. I think in the Cotton Bowl, if I wasn't mistaken, it was a tough game. And I want to say I think OU won that game, but it was a very tough game. And I was like, okay. But yeah, I mean, since then it was just like it kind of, they had
Arkansas
their
over OU?
prestige. So,
What made you pick Arkansas?
Man.
Yeah. So the thing is I was actually. Because OU is my first offer, and then Arkansas came in right after that. And I think at the time there, we had, I want to say our quarterback coach, and I can see his face, but I'm trying to think of if I think of his name, I'll say it again later. But he was basically, I think it was his cousin or something, was a coach at Arkansas, and so, I loved OU, and I committed to OU because I loved the offensive line coach there at the time. It was Coach Mangino, and I was like, I'm going to OU, and I was destined to go to OU, and then my senior year, he ended up leaving. Coach Mangino ended up leaving, and then he took the head job at Kansas, and I talked to him after the fact, and he was just like, I was like, yeah, man, I was going to OU because of you, not because of the team, because I talked to him. I was like, man, this guy could help me get to where I want to go.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like he had that same, that same relationship. I felt like I could have got that same relationship I had with Coach Scott with him, because that's the vibe I got from him, whenever he came to visit me and stuff like that, and home visits and school visits. And so I was like, man, I like this guy. And he left. He went to Kansas, and then when he left, he went to Kansas. I was like, okay. That's when I was like, man, I don't know who the new O-line coach is, and I think they ended up picking up the guy that was formerly at Northwestern. And not to say I didn't like him, I didn't really know him, so I didn't really have like that kind of vibe or personality with him, and or that feeling for like his personality. And so then I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna kind of decommit because I don't know who this is, and now I'm gonna kind of weigh my options, and then once again I took my first visit to OU, second visit like the week later was to Arkansas, and when I went to Arkansas, it was like it was a crazy visit, and not even in a bad way, but because Arkansas is like University of Arkansas, you're like the professional team.
Yeah,
there,
that's what I'm about to say. The loyalty
it.
over there is different from the loyalty being at OU, and that's why I know you good with loyalty.
Yeah.
Right? So I know you about it. So I know you. That's why like it makes sense you being in Arkansas though.
Yeah. So I went there, and I was a 2-sport athlete. So I was looking at doing track when I was in college as well too, and I could have done both at OU. But when I went to Arkansas, it just so happened to be the week of the indoor national championship, which at their stadium. And so they were like, okay, I spent like one day with football. The second day, it's like, okay, you're going to go with the track team.
They had a good time.
Yeah. So, I walked in basically like, they're like, okay, we're going to go. I was walking with the track coach or whatever, drove me over to the stadium. Like, okay, we're going to see the indoor stadium, kind of see our athletes, stuff like that. And then like, as soon as I came in the stadium, like stands were full of
Yeah.
football fans that had signs for like Tony Ugoh,
Yeah.
and everybody would chant
Yeah.
my name when I walked in, and this was at a track
Man.
meet, bro. So I was just
Man.
like looking around,
Look.
and they were like,
So,
Tony, and I'm just like,
gotta.
and as a kid, I was just like, bro, this is
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah.
at that time, I was like, bro, I can be like a superstar here, and so that was also like, yeah, this is like just the vibe, and if this is like the energy you get
Man,
here, and
coming
they
from the
already love
field.
me, yeah, and I'm like, bro, they already love me, like they know me, and I'm like, man, like this is it. And so as soon as I left, I'm like, I'm going to Arkansas. I was like, I'll take my other visits because I got 2 more
Yeah.
just to go see other places.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's not really gonna matter
Yeah.
because this is where I'm
Not
supposed
go-
to be at, and yeah. And then Coach Nutt was definitely like he was a good salesman,
Mhm.
not a salesman in a bad sense to where it's like, oh, he's sleazy and he
Yeah.
tells you stuff that he doesn't stand behind, but like no, like. He like, of course he looked up my name and he was just like, like you were destined
Yeah.
to come to Arkansas.
Yeah.
And I was just like, how so? And he was just like, Tony Ugoh. He said, what does Ugoh spell backwards? And I was just like, I don't
Man,
know.
look,
And he was like, it's hog you.
yeah. Look,
And I was just like, I'm starting. Yeah. And so,
Man.
I like started thinking like, oh, you know
Man,
what?
look.
Like, man, and between that and the track thing and, the fans, I was just like, yeah, bro, like, it's like, this is where I'm meant to be. And, not to say like, I don't know how things would have been if I would have, still been at OU. Because once again, they had a good running back then.
Yeah.
It was the Agent Peterson deal.
Mhm.
They did well there
Yeah.
as well too. And I like the guys there. I think during the time, I was man, I forgot the center's name. But my 2 hosts were Tommy Harrison,
Yeah.
Tommy Harris, who went on to play for Chicago, the D tackle, and then the center was actually pretty good, but I can't remember his name. But I mean, they were just so down to earth, and the team was down to earth, and I was just like, man, I really gel with that team. But after it's really just Coach Mangino, and I talked to him.
What other offers did you
Man, I honestly, I had probably like 50 to 70 offers. So basically all the Texas schools, LSU, Oklahoma State,
Man, you ain't tell us all this.
Yeah, I had like,
Yeah.
I had like 50 some,
I
like
never
50
knew
some
you.
offers. Yeah, I need to actually go back and, I got the box with all my official
Yeah.
offer letters at my parents' house. I need to go back and grab it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had like, I was, I don't want to say I was big time, but yeah, I did pretty well. And like I said, I got my first official offers. I think by the end of my junior year, I probably had like 5 offers,
Yeah.
5 full ride offers. And then, like from everybody from Florida State, Northwestern, Purdue, Indiana, Syracuse, like, all those schools up there,
Yeah.
a few schools in Cali, Arizona State.
Did they ever come down to the school?
Yeah. So this was a time where
Man,
where all the
y'all-
scouts came. So like when I
Y'all
was
know.
when I was younger, and this is like I said before film, which is like, they actually had to
Yeah, 'cause
come see you.
man,
Like it's
that's how you
different now
know,
because
man.
it's like they just go
Yep.
on, I guess, the huddle, and then they look at your film,
Yep.
and
That's all they
they
did.
may come talk to
Mhm.
you. Maybe I don't even really know how things work now, but back then it's like the scouts came. So like my freshman and sophomore year, there were a few scouts, but not many. But then like after we made the playoffs,
Mhm.
like then like my junior, like every practice, there's 4 or
Man.
5 teams there, and like of course that time they're there for me. They're looking at Bo, they're looking at Gary. There's a few different guys we had that were D1 potential. But yeah, every practice we had probably about 5, 6 scouts there from different teams, and then you'll practice. So of course every practice, and it was a good thing because it's like it's not like, okay, well I can just clip my good practice. I'm just like, no, bro, they're watching the whole practice, the whole practice.
Hey, man, look,
So you take a play off.
Look.
It's not gonna fly. It's not like, oh well, they didn't see what you were doing between the whistles. You walking on the field. You got attitude with coach.
Now they don't have to do that. You just, look, they get offers. I'm telling you right now, don't they get offered? You just got to call them.
Yeah.
You just got to call them. I ain't never got to meet you. You don't get to see all that in between. You don't need it's straight to the good stuff. And I get it, but I want to see you in practice. I want to see how you warm up.
Yeah.
I tell the boys all the time, how you warm up. If a real coach come recruit you, he go look at how you warm up, what you doing in practice, like that game stuff. Cool, everybody turn it on for the game. Even a person who ain't never played, they ready to get out there.
Exactly.
But the one who put in the work,
Yeah.
hey, that one's gonna be ready to go. Cause all the other ones, they man, be having some fake teammates. They turn it on just for game day and it don't shine too like bright.
Yeah.
But that dog who doing a warm up, paying attention to all the small details, that's the one you ain't got to worry about. I ain't got to worry about him staying in his room after curfew.
Yeah.
You know, I ain't got to worry about none of that. Like, I ain't got to worry him not doing his job. But if I got to worry about him, although he talented, but I got to worry about him, then a lot of coaches get in trouble because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I said, it's things are different now, but I mean, that was a good thing, back then. Because then it became a reality. Like, and then it was not just for me, but like for other guys. Because other guys probably got looked at.
I did.
Off of
I'm
people that were there for somebody else. And they're like, yo, who is this kid? And so like, I feel like probably nowadays, like you have to be a celebrity in high school, right? You got to have that celebrity status. You have to be, you got to try to be in the limelight because if not, because if not, like they won't see you. It's not just like, okay, well, I can practice hard. If they're here looking at Tony and they see me doing my thing at D-line, or they see me doing my thing at linebacker or corner or safety or quarterback. Anybody else on the field can get looked at when they're there for me, but it's just like if they're not there, like of course it's kind of the same thing. They'll be watching a guy on film, and I don't really know because I haven't talked to like the college recruiting part. I talked to college coaches, but I don't, I haven't talked to them in terms of what they're looking for and how they go about picking. I know I got some friends that are like pro scouts, and he tells me that they go through film and stuff like that, and they watch people's film from colleges, and they still, I think, colleges the pros make their rounds, and they'll go talk to kids because
they'll even get film from camps. Some of these camps, I've been to a few camps. I worked a few camps where they'll get the film like to send it off to the let me see how. And I'll be like, man, they be like, yes, they want to see the film, they want to see all the measurements, but they want to see the body too. Like, so it's starting right, like you say. It's like you already gotta have that buzz, kind of.
Yeah,
you gotta have a buzz.
Because if not, you'll slide under the radar because somebody else, like, they look good on tape, like they look good on the film, but you get there, they'll be trash, But it's like they just, let me clip my best plays, and let me clip this, and let me show you, doing these drills and moving my feet this. But then, it's because they practice it a million times, they have a million cuts, a million takes. And then they post a good one, but then it's like when it's time to react and just be an athlete, like it's just, so I think, they probably have it in college. I feel like they have it harder, trying to maybe find, the good talent. But I mean, I know they got ways around that because obviously the programs are picking up, good dudes. And
they got the transfer portal.
Yeah.
But it goes back to that though. Those guys, again, they go on different places. They won't never find a home like Arkansas. Yeah. For me, like U of H, you get what I'm saying? But because it's hard for them, they ain't going for the same. You went to Arkansas because they the love and they showed from immediately. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? I went to U of H just to stay home to the city and stay with the fam. Yeah. Especially going off. And I was like, man, ain't nothing like Texas football. Ain't nothing like Houston football. Yeah. And there ain't nothing like the Houston culture. So I was like, I'm gonna go ride A-Shine. Then I think Chris Mitchell was over there. He graduated, 05? So he was over there. So, I was like, bet, I'll go over there. My uncle's already going over there. I said, I'm good. Yeah. But it's the loyalty, though. It's the loyalty. But now it's like, man, you got so much stuff on your resume. Like, I went here. Like, all that transferring, I transferred from Hutchinson Community College to Blinn in the summertime. Mm-hmm. That was difficult. Then I went from Blinn to U of H. But even if I got to U of H, because I ended up leaving Blinn early. I had to go do like 2 credit classes for health just to get into U of H. So I could finish off my stuff for as far as my hours I needed for when I was at Blinn. Yeah. Because I ain't graduated. I just graduated. I just went pretty much early. I had 1 more semester left to graduate. And I said, you know what, I'm gone. I got to go. Yeah. But I needed some hours. So I went to U of H that way. So even I transferred a few schools. But it's the process of trying to get all your transcripts and then it's doing this and doing that. I'm like, man, look, I wish coming out of school, that the school that offered me stuck with it. So I ain't have to do nothing. I could just go there because all that transferring, and I wanted to be there.
Yeah.
You know, that was Southern Baton Rouge. You know, out there with Ramon. Ramon Chinyan was out there. We were supposed to go out there together. And then I think one of our other teammates out there at the time, there had some cousins out there too, though. Well, man, I wanted to go out there, but it was a situation that happened. Left me dry. That's why I'm with JUCO. But, man, I had to transfer so much. I said, I don't know how these boys transferring these days.
Yeah.
Like, man, sit down somewhere.
Crazy.
Find you a home.
Yeah,
Find you a home.
Yeah, when I talk to my guys, I'm just like, bro, it's you know, it's different, but it's like, and it's different. Like, you know, I'm not knocking them. You know, I'm glad they got NIL. I wish I had NIL.
Man.
I wish I had NIL.
You would have. I ain't gonna lie.
I would have been. Yeah, I would have been good. Like I still would have, you know, did everything I had to do, but it's like, man, you know, and I did things the right way. Like there was guys that took money, and I don't want to say anything, but there was guys that whatever, you know.
Yeah, we all know.
And
especially at time.
and like no, they're like, man, I know you got paid to come here. I said, no, like I came here for free. Like my payment was my scholarship.
Come on, pay for my school.
Pay
I
for
want to
my
play college ball.
and
my school.
and you know that was my payment. So, but nowadays I'm like, man, it's just, you know, I feel like it's crazy. It's is it good for the kids? I'm gonna say no. Right. And that's probably going to be controversial. People will be like, man, he's hating. I'm not hating, because when you think about it, you know, you go from high school, you don't really, you know, of course you can, you know, there's not really anything in high school.
Yeah.
And then you go to college, and then it kind of gives you this false sense of, because now the players have all the power, which I'm not opposed to, but I feel like there needs to be some control. And right now there's no control.
Yes, Wild West.
So it's just like, you know, I'm scrolling through Instagram, seeing these different athletes, and, you know, you'll scroll through 3 swipes and they got 4 different jerseys on from 4 different teams. And I'm kind of like, bro, like you only been in school for 4 years. You played for 4 teams. I'm like, who is your loyalty to, right? So that's one aspect. When you graduate, or if you graduate, because that's another thing. I'm like, are people looking at graduation rates? Because not all credits don't transfer.
I ain't seen a lot of them graduate.
All credits don't transfer. I don't even see a lot of them
even be back in school.
And and I feel like it's, you know, it's starting now, and I don't feel like if it's a negative thing, it'll start to come to a head like in a few years when the money runs out. It's just great to get money, but that money, you get even 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, that money's gonna be gone. Like if you live a sensible life with 300,000, you spend let's say 40 grand a year, let's say 50 grand to make the math even. That's gone in 6 years after you leave school. Yeah. Now you're broke, right? Yeah. And you go from having this money to, and I see the kids on the sideline. They got bigger chains than the NFL players. And so I know a few of them, not all of them, but a few of them.
And they got a few of them on their neck.
I'm watching high school kids drive Dodge Hellcats.
So it's just like, you know, financially.
They prom's different. Yeah. I tell you, they homecoming. Let me tell you, homecoming is different. Homecoming, you just ride with your homie.
Yeah.
Homecoming.
Yeah. So once again, it's like, I'm not knocking them, right? I'm glad they're able to do it. I'm glad they're making money. But at the same time, it's just like, okay, you know, I know when I made it to, because a lot of these kids aren't going to make it to NFL. So that's why I'm like, okay, I'm glad they're getting money. But then it's just like when you don't make it, you know, like they tell us in the NFL, like, and hopefully they're telling kids now, like somewhere around 50 to 70% of all NFL players file for bankruptcy within 5 years or something like that of leaving the league.
Is the lifestyle that, like, because I play CFL, the lifestyle CFL, I always tell people, and they always laugh at it, you know, it's a cheap football league. You know, cash funds low. It's just, it ain't the same as NFL money. And even get a couple of, maybe a half, you got to be a quarterback to get a $500,000. Be a prime receiver, American, you go get about maybe, sometimes they'll pay by 6, you know, all depends. But, I mean, you talking about Canadian tax?
Yeah.
And then you got to transfer that money over. Oh, so you better just stay over there.
Yeah.
But then you can't do nothing really too much. But the lifestyle wasn't too, everybody pretty much chill.
Yeah.
But NFL?
Yeah. It's a little, and like I said, it really depends on the team, because, you know, when I was with the Colts, you know, I think there was only a couple guys that had like, well, it's probably more than a couple guys. But at the facility, there's probably a couple guys that had like super nice cars. Everybody else was in like regular cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course you'll have rims and stuff like that, but we're in regular
Yeah.
cars,
Yeah.
right? You know, but then I go to a place like New York and
Man, what they
you
were
go,
doing?
and I mean, I'm not knocking them, but it's just
Yeah.
the lifestyle. It's just different, right?
Yeah.
You know, because you're in Indianapolis, Indiana,
Yeah.
and yes, it's a city, but it's also Indiana.
Yeah.
So it's just like, you know, like they had some, you know, there's some money there,
Yeah.
and there's some people with some nice rides. But New
Yeah,
York is, you know, you got several six-figure
Yeah.
cars in the
Yeah.
parking lot,
Yeah.
you know, just to come to the game, just to
Yeah.
come to practice, and it's just like. You know,
Man.
so it wasn't that way in Indy. So, you know, and like to say it could be totally different now, but,
Yeah.
you know, back when I was there, and that's why, you know, I think it was definitely a blessing that, you know, I went to Indy because it helped me kind of like settle down. Everybody wasn't out there like that, especially
Yeah.
linemen, you know, super down to earth, stuff
Mhm.
like that. So, but yeah, just to get back to like, you know, the college thing and the NIL deal, it's just like, you know, I feel like the biggest knock is that, you know, one, you know, there's no real loyalty. Two, you know, you don't really teach, you know, at some point in time, you got to learn how to get through adversity,
Yeah.
right? So these kids are learning how to deal with adversity in high school. In college, I had adversity, you know, that I had to go through. You know, there were times where I'm like, man, you know, it was my red shirt freshman year, and there was another redshirt freshman year, maybe my redshirt freshman, redshirt sophomore year. No, my redshirt freshman year, because I started my redshirt sophomore year. There's another guy there, Jerry, and you know we're you know good buds to this day. You know, but it's just like, you know, the coach told me like, you know, I wasn't going to start in front of the left tackles. It's okay, well, you know, we can put you at guard. And there I was going to play left guard, but this guy was like a 5th-year senior. You know, he walked on, you know, and Coach Nat, he was honest with me. He was just like, yo, like, you know, we get it. You know, you know, have more talent than this guy, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, this guy's like a 5th-year senior. This is last year.
Yeah.
He was a walk-on. He earned a scholarship. You still got 3 more years
Man,
here
that's
when he leaves, right?
Yeah.
And so at that point, I was just like, you know what? I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I was cool with that. And I'm like, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to play my role,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's just like, you know, kids nowadays, they'd be like, nah, I want to start, or nah, I'm not doing that. So I'm gone. So I could have jumped in the transfer portal and be like, yeah, no, I'm out of here. You know, but I knew what my role was going into the
They
season.
coach had to sign off on that joker too.
Yeah. And so
That's the other thing.
and so, yeah. And so then it's just like, you know, nowadays it's just like they don't learn how to deal with adversity. Like, you know, in high school, you're kids, right? You know, in college, I still kind of, because I'm, you know, a lot older, I still kind of consider you kids, but you're really adults, you know? And college is a time for you to learn how to start dealing with real world stuff. And if you can always just jump in a portal and transfer out of problems, then where do you learn how to deal with adversity? You know, when football's over with.
Yeah.
So it's just like, hopefully they're teaching them.
Right.
Yeah,
But
like
when
when
you
you
go
get in
kick
the real world, because
Yeah.
this, I mean, I understand, like, it's still not the real world when
Yeah.
you're in college, especially if you're an athlete. Like, if you're in you're college and you're working
Yeah.
full time and you're this and you got to pay for this and pay for that and paying for all your meals, that's
Yeah.
the real world. But
Yeah.
as a student athlete, you're really not in the real world yet, because especially on scholarship, because everything's given to you, right?
Yeah.
You're working for it, but everything is just kind of handed to you, and it's like, okay, well, you don't really have to go out and get it for yourself. So it's just like, where do kids nowadays learn how to deal with those adversities? And then what's going to happen, because this is so new, is once you do make it to the league, guess who has all the power? The owners, not the players. So I'm like, okay, so now, but in the pros, you're grown men. You got kids, you got family, you're married, like you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of, you know, your wife, your kids, you're probably taking care of maybe your parents, sister, brother, people looking to you for stuff. You're taking care of people, right? And in college, you know, people may not be looking. Like, there probably are some people that have to help their moms out and stuff like that, but for the most part, you know, everybody's not helping people. But at that time, it's just like, you know, as an adult, you have less privileges than a college player does. Man. So like, where, you know, like, how are you gonna be in for a real shock when you get to the league, and you know, you can't be like, well, I'm out of here. Like, nah, bro, you under contract.
Nah, they gonna tell you out of here. They gonna be like,
yeah,
exactly.
And yeah,
Release, wave.
and when do you learn how to deal with
Look.
that? You know, that was big for me.
Man.
You know, that was like when things got real for me, and you know, we'll probably get into this later. But that was real for me. That was like my first sign, because I mean, up until like the point that I got injured with the Colts and then I got released, like my whole life up until that point. Of course, I was like, you know, I grew up off of Antoine and Veterans. You know, lived in the same
Let them know,
2-bedroom
Tony.
apartment.
Let them know,
It was
Tony.
Camden Park back then,
Look.
but we were in the same apartment for 13 years. It was 5 of us, and my sister came over from Nigeria. There was 6 of us in there in a 2-bedroom apartment. Like, you know, like that's where we were. Like that's where I grew up. You know, so it's just like, yeah, you go from that to, you know, you go from that to just everything else. It's just like, yeah, it's, you know, like it's just different, bro.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so it's just like, you know, like that was my adversity then. But, you know, in terms of like sports and school, like, of course I got hurt, but then it's like, and I got hurt again in college, but then I was always able to bounce back, and always as like things were still good, right? But then like in you know, in the pros, it's like, yeah, like I had a, you know, like my first year was great. Then I got hurt, then I had surgery, and then I was like bone on bone on my knee. And the doctor told me, he was just like, yeah, now it's about managing. Like this is the same thing this is the same knee injury that, you know, ended it. I think he said ended it, Lawrence Taylor's career. And he was just like, this is the same injury that ends a lot of people's career. And it's just like, especially in a position you're in, like if I was a receiver or something where I wasn't like always making contact every play, you know, I may have been a little bit better, but because we're banging 70 times a game, it's like, and I'm bone on bone on the outside, it's just like, yeah, he's like, right now it's a matter of time. So I go from, you know, being able to practice every day to being on limited practices because, you know, I couldn't, you know, practice because my knee would swell up, and then, you know, I'm on hella drugs and stuff just to be able to play. So I go from that to like, you know, to some other things happening, and then being able to turn that around, you know, my third year, like, okay, well, things are starting to be good, you know, got my position back, starting again, you know, had a great off-season camp. Coaches were looking forward to everything. They're like, man, this is the best you've ever played. And then I get injured and then get released. And that was like my first real taste of adversity. And I still, like, that still affects me to this day, which is crazy. But it's just like, you know, that happened, right? And that was my first real sign of adversity. And that happened when I was older, but I had never really dealt with anything before then. But it's like you have these kids nowadays where they go through college and you're able to get out of adversity by just going somewhere else. And then you either, if you get to the pros and something like that happens, it's going to be 10 times worse. Or if you don't make it and then your money runs out, or you thought this was going to be sweet and it turned out not to be sweet, it's like, where do you learn like how to deal? Where do you learn how to stick things through if the answer is to always hit the portal, you know? So I feel like, you know, once again, I'm not knocking them. I'm glad they got, you know, the stuff they have, but I do feel like there needs to be some control. And I feel like probably, honestly, you know, I watch It Is What It Is a lot. You know, I think, you know, Maurice Claret is on that little show. And so he brings some real light to it. And I think he said, like, you know, what's probably needs to happen is eventually you're going to have to form a union at some point, or there's got to be contracts. And I think that's what it really honestly needs to be, that there just needs to be contracts. And it's just like there is in the pros. So just if you want to do it like the pros, you want people to play it, then just run it like the pros.
Somebody got to control it, because right now it's a
free for all.
But then you got right, the quarterback from UNLV, he did because of you know, so it's like, man, how do you, like, you know, although they getting treated like adults now, definitely professional players. How do you still protect the purity of the game, the integrity of their character, to have a foundation? Like going to college, I tell, it's bigger than getting a college degree. It's like you going somewhere, you making home for the next 4 to 5 years, maybe 6 years while you there, and you building a foundation of your young adulthood, and that's gonna set you out for the rest of your life. What you learned in high school, the people you was with high school, I mean, great. You know, in a lot of those relationships, like me and B, like still extend to this day, 20 years later, you know? So it's like, And that's kind of tough these days with these kids because they ain't got the same village. So that's a whole nother thing. But, what do you build that integrity and keep that integrity of the game, the kids, the athletes, but also, okay, we understand y'all need a little money.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
But how can we make sure that, all y'all, because all y'all schools getting money off of y'all.
Yeah.
So how can we get everybody? And then we got the top tier guys. Everybody know what the top tier guy is.
Yeah.
You know the guy is on your team. That's the recruits here.
That's him.
Because that's why they coming here. So,
Yeah.
the scouts here to see him. So you better show up and just look, to be thankful, in the sense of that, to be a great teammate. But, the guys who do the guys, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Until you be that guy.
In high school, like, I got my brothers from high school
Mm-hmm.
that, graduated with, we're still close, but I feel like college is where you make some really, really strong bonds because you're growing up together,
Weekends
right?
with nobody out there.
Yeah, it's like no parents, like y'all are like living together for the most part,
Yep.
and all your time is spent with these
Mm-hmm.
guys. And so like a lot of my closest friends are, from college.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, where do you, like, if you're in and out, like in the pros, like I got some, some good buds. Like I said, like the line, I was only with Detroit for a year. I was with the Giants for the year. So never really got, too close to anybody there. But, I got pretty close with the line to this day. But it's just like in the pros, like, 60% of your locker room is different,
Mm-hmm.
50, 60% every year. So it's like you can't really get too comfortable or get too close with anybody because then they turn around, they'll be gone tomorrow.
Man.
So it's just
Oh,
like,
it
it's
be
like
hurting.
that in college.
Look,
Yeah.
It be
Now
hurting
it's,
too. Like, man,
yeah.
I just met the dog
Yeah.
24 hours ago.
Exactly.
He met somebody already.
and it's gone.
I mean,
Yeah.
So I learned that early.
Yeah.
And they was man.
Yeah. So now it's like that in college. You don't have
I
no,
know.
you'll probably have some people that stick it out and ride it out. And I came here and I'm going to stay here for 4 years. But for the most part, your team, like probably, I don't know how many people enter the transfer portal, but I'm out. I'm going to go somewhere else. And it's just like, how do you build that brotherhood? How do you build, that camaraderie and those special bonds that, kind of carry
And
you
a special time of your life. You ain't
through
gonna
a
never get this
lifetime.
college life.
Yes.
I tell you,
Ain't
go
nothing
to
else like it.
the college life for the college age.
Yeah.
It's only one time you can experience it.
Yeah.
You experience it. You
Yeah.
experience it. You to the fullest, but
Yeah.
you transferring it. I don't go experience. I got all these
New people. You're learning everybody, trying to get cool with people.
I'm still trying to prove myself on the field or whatever sport I'm in.
Yeah.
Whatever sport I'm still trying to prove myself, and I can't even get content with that.
Yeah.
Cause
And then you just jumping from place to place, or your teammates jumping from place to place, and y'all had plan like, hey, we gonna they said blood, sweat, and tears, like we in there grinding every day. As a freshman, as a sophomore, because like, man, we get our opportunity, like it's gonna be it. Like, nah, like you can come in and you have a completely different class that you're graduating with, So it's crazy nowadays, in the college industry. So that's why I feel like it probably needs to be, for overall just the health of these, I could say kids, but the health of these, young men, like there needs to be some sort of control because it's the real world is not like that. Of course, if you don't like a job, you was here 1 year, you're here the next year, you're there the next year, people gonna stop hiring you because they know that you're like, oh, they're only here for a short period of time, and it's gonna be harder for you to find a job. It's gonna be harder for you, and it's like that's not the real world. That's not how things work. When things get bad, things get bad in your marriage. You can't just, oh, I'm gonna jump from marriage to marriage. Things get bad, with your kids. Oh, well, I'm cutting my kids off, or I'm this, or just things are gonna happen. It's just like the time that you're growing, you're in college, and you're getting through college, and then some of these people never make the pros. Like eventually, you got to learn how to stick some things out. And
what you think, B?
I got a couple questions.
Yeah.
You could go back to your 18-year-old self. What would you change? If there was anything to change.
Honestly, and this is, honestly, at 18, I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, I don't think there's anything in high school that I felt like I could have done differently. Because like I said, I wasn't messing around. Like I was in there to try to get out of there. I was in there to be like, yo, this is my ticket, to get out this, environment to try to do better for my family and, my kids, or not at the time, but like my future family and stuff like that. So, in high school, there's nothing, nothing I would have changed, as a senior, because like I said, I was, once again, like my academics and everything were good. Football wise, I was strict. I wasn't out there partying with the guys. I wasn't at different. I didn't even know they had house parties in high school until my senior football year was over with. Then I started finding out guys was hanging out outside of here. But it's like, oh, all I was doing was lifting weights and staying after school, lifting weights and going home, studying and eat, sleep, and come back and do it again. So that was pretty much my life through high school. So honestly, I wouldn't have changed anything.
Okay. Another question. What's your favorite memory of your playing days? High school, college, and pro.
Pros. Okay. For high school, I would say, there's so many good memories. There's so many good memories. But I guess my main, or my, I guess probably the one that sticks out the most was, I forgot who we just beat. I want to say after it was on that my senior year, and I think we beat somebody. Maybe it was either the Woodlands or somebody that was really good that year during the season. And it was like it was supposed to be a tough game. I think we lost to them the year before, and I want to say we beat. I want to say it was a Woodlands. And on the way back from the stadium, like the offense was in the bus, and Coach Scott was driving the bus, and somebody had like some music playing. I remember when we got to the school, Coach Scott started swinging. So he was swinging the school bus coming down. Yes. From side to side, he was swinging the school bus, and we were all like super amped up. Everybody was amped up. There was like, but that was just the vibe then. Like everybody, the coaches were vibing, the players were vibing. Like, I would probably say that was off the field. That was probably my most memorable moment. On the field, yeah, I mean, honestly, I probably would say it was like that Woodlands game was big for me because, like, my junior year, I want to say they beat us, and they beat us, I want to say, pretty good. And they had a really good team at the Woodlands, and they had like it was a D1. No, Amendola was actually with us.
Okay.
So yeah, so Amendola was actually, or his coach, Coach Amendola.
Yeah.
So Coach Amendola,
Amendola,
yeah, he was with
Yeah.
us. Yeah, and his son was young then.
Nah,
So
yeah,
He was in between.
like Bobby Reed, North Shore.
yeah, somewhere. His son wasn't there, but he wasn't with us
He might have
either.
been right after you.
Yeah, and so, but yeah, Coach Amendola was with us. But yeah, I would say that was a big game for me because it was just like that was a test, and there was a ton of scouts at the game because it was a 5-star DN Travis Lyko, 6'5", 6'6" DN, super strong, long, and then it was me, 5-star, whatever, 5-star tackle, and it was like that was a huge matchup. And so it was just like, okay, who's going to win? So I remember my junior year, that's what Coach Scott always said, like, you need to be in this weight room, like you're thinking about Travis Lyko, because that's the matchup of the year. Like, that's the hardest guy I got to face all year. So, like, I was, like, literally, like, I got to beat this guy. I got to dominate this guy. And so, I did. He'll say something different because we actually ended up in Indy for a little bit. He came to Indy. I want to say my rookie year. I want to say he came. I think he was free agent, but I want to say my rookie year, my second year. He came to Indy, and then he was already talking to the guys about how he was beating me my senior year. I'm like, yeah, nah, bro. It's like I got film. I got the tape. Yeah, I got the tape, bro. Like that didn't happen. So I want to say like that was probably our biggest win or biggest moment during the season, or definitely for me, because that was the biggest game for me, because that was like, I don't want to say it was my breakout game, but that was a game. It was like, yeah, like I'm the real deal. Yeah. And then in college, it's hard for me to just, because I mean, so many things happened in college. But I would just say, like, yeah, just that run that we had, my senior year, in college, where we lost to USC, and then we like rolled through everybody else, and then we had, game time was there when we played Tennessee, and Tennessee was ranked. Then we mopped them, and it was just like just that whole season, and like it was like, man, this is it. Like I honestly thought we were gonna win a national championship that year, and we were that good. I felt like we could have, made it to the national championship, because I think we got up to like, I think we were like ranked 7, 6 in the nation, I think, at some point, before I think we dropped to, either we dropped to LSU or we dropped to Florida, and then that dropped us, and then we dropped again when we lost to Wisconsin. But yeah, we got up like inside the top 10, hadn't lost a game, and you know how hard it is to go through the SEC. Oh, yeah. So we beat Bama that year. We beat a lot of teams that year, and we were like,
say that out loud,
yeah, because I mean, Bama was just, we were always kind of back and forth with Bama, but Bama was always the benchmark. Even now, they're still the benchmark, in the SEC, and it's just like, okay, if you can beat Bama, then you can potentially win the SEC, and nobody really beat Bama. Especially back then.
They give you an extra boost. They give you extra boost on your win column.
Yeah.
It might say 1, but it really be 2 or 3 to boost you up.
Yeah. So it's just like, the fact that we went, through, and so it's just like, So that was probably just that whole year was big. And then I will say in the pros, there's so many moments. But the one play that still kind of sticks out with me was it was my rookie year, and who were we playing? I forgot who we were playing, but we had like this draw play where I would kind of say, I did the same thing in college, which is they didn't take it from college, but they were like, oh, this kid can do a draw, because I was pretty quick and I could run, especially down the field, and I was agile, and I could throw like crazy blocks downfield. So we kind of had the same play in Indy, and it was a draw play, and I set, and it's like I just chunked the mess out of the DN, right? And then like I was to go up, to block the backer, so I went up, blocked the backer, and then my running back was Joseph Adai, Houstonian as well.
Yeah.
And so like and so so like I was blocking for him, of course he sprung, and he was just down the sideline, and then like I either pancaked the linebacker or whatever. But then it's like I was free, so I'm like, okay, he was still doing his thing and making people miss downfield. And so I just started running. I was just like trying to spring another block, and I like ran probably like 30, 40 yards downfield, and then ended up like hitting the safety or cornerback, and then like pancaking him too, and then ended up springing him for a touchdown. So it was like a super long touchdown run. And then I remember when it happened, I was just like, I was so amped. I ripped my chin strap off. I'm over there yelling and flexing up on the field.
In college be different, man.
Yeah.
Like when your teammates score in college.
Yeah.
Man, it's just because of the electricity from the fans. Like simple as that. Like you been in Arkansas, like
it might be even more, when you make it to the league.
Yeah, because big plays don't happen in the league, and plays like that don't happen in the league, and we weren't a run-dominant team. So for us to spring that big run, and I knew, like, of course it takes all 11 guys, right, to make this thing work, but to know that I did, like, a little bit extra to spring it, and it's just, like, that's just the way I played. And I remember when we got back to the film room, and then it was Coach Dungy was there. We got back to the film room, and so we're watching the game and stuff. And we won that game, of course, and we're watching the game, and he was like, hey, I just want y'all to see something real quick. Like, we're already winning and we're already up, but I want y'all to see this play. And he put on the play, and he highlighted me in front of the whole team. He was like, look at this effort. Like, and then, like, he showed the play, and then, like, you see Joseph Guy running, and you see me running, and I actually caught him and then passed him. Of course, he was making some moves, but it's like you don't expect the lineman to be that fast. And so everybody was like, dang, like, man, you was moving. And so I was just like, man, it made me feel, so good because it's like I didn't do it for that, but just to get that kind of response, from my teammate, and it's like, man, the coaches, they're really watching this, and sprung him for a touchdown. He's like, man, and so like that was probably my best moment, even bigger than winning the Super Bowl or whatever, because that was like a personal thing, for me, and I really did like appreciate that, just that time period and stuff like that. So
Man, that's man. So with all that adversity that we use for football, that you use, Bino, he used, how does it apply to your daily life now? I know you had your business with Smoothie King. I remember you telling us back. I don't know if we was in school, because when you started having that Smoothie King, when you first got your first,
2014.
Okay, so that's when I came back. I was old enough to come talk. Yeah, so I remember you talking about that. I was like, man, he got a Smoothie King now. I said, dang, I got. That's the next level. That's the next level. So man, let the audience know about because I don't remember nobody coming from Westfield that had nothing like that. Own stuff. Like, not no athlete. Like you said, you was one, like, really. It was some people before us, but I never really known them, and you came through. But then, like, every time we see you got a college scholarship. Yeah. You went to the NFL, got drafted, won a Super Bowl. See you again, you got a whole Smoothie King, So I'm like, dang, boy. I said, this the level though. This what and we always looked up to you.
You own multiple.
I owned one for 5 years, and then after my 5th year, then I opened up a second one. So then I had two for I had them both for about 10 years.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Man. Smoothie Kings too. We'll be doing it all, man. So now you married, you got your kids. Yeah. How long you been married for?
Been married for 15 years.
Man.
Yeah, so 15 years. It'll be, I know it's not close, but 16 in February.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, been married for 15 years, 4 kids. So oldest son actually just turned 22 3 days ago.
Man,
so,
happy belated.
Yeah. And then 3 daughters. 15, 12, and 11. So
man, family being everything. How that's been life? How that life?
Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna ask this, cause my wife think I be tripping. She be saying, cause I'm still in the football world, right? So I be having the coach's tone.
Okay.
I call it coach's tone. She don't call it that. No. So was it ever a thing to where cause how long you was with your wife?
We come up before we got married?
Yeah, before y'all got married.
About 2 years.
Did she know you during football time?
Yeah, so we actually so we met like shortly after I got drafted.
Okay.
Which is the story in itself was crazy, but she was actually my waitress. I went to Papacitos for the first time ever, because once again, like, I'm just from Westfield.
Yeah.
Like, we went to a restaurant, it was Golden Corral.
Come
it was
Golden Corral. Which one? Walters?
Yeah. So like we were back then we had First cafeteria, and so like that's where we went. Like if it wasn't a buffet or anything like that, like we wasn't. My parents were about that. We ain't had that kind of money. And so even in college, like I never went to no like real sit down restaurant, but my homie was like, "Yo, man, you gotta try, it's Papacitos." So I'm just like, man, my mom got food at the house. Like I'm not trying to. Even then, I was like, man, I'm not trying to spend no money. He's like, man, it's like, come on, like let's go. And it's all right, cool. Yeah. So we went, and then she was actually our waitress, and that's where I met her for the first time. And then we kind of since then stayed in touch, and and it just kind of grew from there. But yeah, she was there, through like my whole like pro career, and so she kind of saw the football side of things, and then she's, of course, we've been through the non-football side of things as well too. So,
man, how's that been with you? Because I asked this question because, like, for me, I always have a battle of still removing myself from the game in that sense. From the mentality, you already know how it is. Like you like. So for me, all those been with almost 10. It'll be 10 probably next year.
Okay.
When I retire, but I always find it still kind of like, I know I can still play, but I don't want to play. Yeah. But I still got that energy, and I still carry myself like, I'm a player, but I'm a coach now. Yeah. So I find it, even when I'm coaching my boys, like, I don't ever expect them to be as what I was as athlete. I really try to pull it out of them, and I try all different type of way be coach with me. Yeah. Even now, middle school age, a lot of times, high school, did college for a little bit. But I'm always trying to pull it out of them. Use the same principles I grew up on, and it's having people like you in my life that inspire me to be something great. But at the same time, I was like, man, like when I was a player, like when I got mad, I got quiet.
Yeah.
Or my tone changed.
Yeah.
So I'm demanding everybody to basically, I try to raise their level of play or livelihood or intensity or maybe they focus or maybe their confidence or their belief. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, like, how long was it for you since you retired, even through marriage or even this, that other side of the adulthood after playing ball, that you had to kind of remove yourself from the game mentally, I guess.
Yeah. And yeah, that was
mentally and emotionally too.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, and so like I want to say I've always kept it separate, but like it took some growing up on my end, and definitely counseling help, counseling, premarital counseling, postmarital counseling, and just biblically, right, and just looking at things that the Bible says, and then trying to carry that kind of in terms of like the relationship goal. And so yeah, I know, and coming from an athlete's term, and this is what I tell people like in Sunday school, at Fallbrook, when we talk about, I guess it's Philippians 4 or 5, where it talks about, I'm sorry, Ephesians 5. It's Ephesians 5, where it talks about marriage and, how, husbands love your wives and wives, respect your husbands and follow your husbands, and, husbands, treat your wife as Christ treated the church. And, because, it talks about how, a man, like treat her as if you were your own body.
Yeah.
Right. And when I looked at that verse, I'm just like, okay. But then the athlete side of me was like, you know what? I treat my body pretty hard.
Yeah.
Right.
And
so
the aggression.
Yeah. It's just like when my body's like when my body's hurting, like we got up,
Man,
you got up,
we loved
you
it.
still had, you pushed through it. Like when my body's telling you no, you're like, nah, you can do it, and so like, and this is what I told him. I was just like, so my mentality was I wasn't taking that verse like, oh, I got to treat her like I treat myself. But in terms, if you look at it, it's like, well, this is how I treat myself. This is what I expect from myself. Yeah. But then I had to realize that, like I can't expect that from her, right?
Yeah.
Because the Bible also says that, husbands should treat their wives as like I want to say like the lesser in terms of like strength wise. And so it's just like, you have to be delicate with them. And that was the part, because, with myself, it's just like, if I didn't feel like doing something, it wasn't a choice, especially in college. I didn't want to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go be on the field at 5:30 to start running and do 6 a.m. Like, I don't even think they still do that now, but I don't know if they do or not. But it's like, it was a whole 6 week, 8 week.
It was in high school.
We had boot camp. Yeah.
Big comeback. 3 days. Come on.
We had like mat drills, and it's like, it was a whole like 8 week boot camp grind or whatever, where it's just like, man, for 6 weeks, like, man, for 6 weeks, I got to wake up, early in the morning, run, do all this stuff. Nobody wanted to be there. That was the part that nobody wanted to do. But it's like, you still like, you know what? You got to set your alarm. You got to do it, right? And so I in my mind, it's just like, okay, well, when my wife was tired, or things, I got home and things weren't done.
Yeah.
At first I was just like, what? And then especially like she told me about some of the stuff I said, like our first kid together. Our first kid.
I seen it.
Yeah, our first kid together. Like, oh, you remember when I told you I wasn't, like I wasn't, feeling good, and I didn't get something down. Like when I left, she was laying down. When I came back, she was laying down. And I didn't understand it, because I'm like, no, you got to get up. Like, I know you're not feeling well, but you got to get up. Like, you got to push yourself. You got this. And, it's like, I still, because that's the mentality I have for myself, right?
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, I was like, man, I said that? She was like, yeah. I was like, damn, I said, man, I can't believe I said some of the stuff I said back then. But it just took, growing up and just a maturing, knowing like, she's not me. Your spouse is not you, especially as being an athlete. Like, they might be like the people who are married to other people that were like athletes,
Yeah.
they probably have a completely different lifestyle
Yeah.
because their wives probably have the same mentality they do,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not saying that one is good or one is bad, but when you come from the athletic background, you're used to pushing through things. You expect everybody else to do the same thing, and my wife pushes through a lot.
Yeah. She
But
pushed
it's
out them
just
4 babies.
yeah.
My wife be mad at me right now. We do the month.
Yeah.
She's like, I can't believe you. I said,
yeah,
I ain't gonna lie, I be on it. That's what I'm saying. I got it.
Yeah, she's been through.
I be pushing through.
I'm gonna say she's been through a lot, but we definitely together. We've been through. We've all had our own adversity. We've all kind of dealt with a lot. But I mean, there's times now where she doesn't feel like doing some things, and now it's completely different for me because before I was like, when we first were married, you got to do this, you got to do that, and not telling her like, but I'm like, hey, like, you like motivating, like, no, we got to do it, like, come on, now I'm just like. You know what? Like you're doing a lot. Like I see, I see everything that they're doing, and so it's just different for me. So I'm like, you know what? You're doing a lot. So no, you don't have to do that. Like no, it's okay if the clothes don't get folded today. It's okay if this isn't clean today. Like it's okay if you don't get to the bathrooms today. Like it's okay. Like just like the main thing is like you can clean it tomorrow. You can clean it next week. But it's just like just take some time to make sure you have time for yourself, make sure you have time for, the kids, make sure you have time for me. So it's just like, just, I think that just comes with just, just the level of maturity and just, not wanting to, things. I've always been like, if there's a problem for me, it's like something has to change, right? When I was coming through Westfield, all I saw was people who were doing the wrong things, and I saw like where it led them. So even from when I was young, it's okay, well, whatever they did, I need to do different. Because if I do what they did, then I'm going to end up just like them. And that's not how I want to be. Right. And so I've always kind of had that mentality. And so like now, if things aren't quite going the way I expected, I'm like, okay, well, something has to change. Right. Whether it's me, whether it's her, whether it's the kids, whether it's whatever, like getting out of a situation in terms of, if this is not good or this is not healthy mentally for me, then you know what, I need to either take a different viewpoint or just do something else. And so just having that mentality and it's just like, earlier on you probably argue, you probably fight over some stuff, but it's just like if you want to start fighting, eventually something has to change. You can't just expect your spouse to change without you changing. So it's like a give and a take, right? So if you want them to change, then you have to change. And so that's kind of what's helped me out a lot and just helped us out because I mean she's the same way, so it makes it easier.
Man, see, look, that's why I see. Yeah, I see why I fool with him. Like, man, come on, because I be like I said, I be thinking about, like, man, but I be knowing I gotta change. You know what I'm saying? Because although she played sports in high school, for the longevity of it and the college experience, it's really different. The college is like. And then to play it professionally, like you gotta like really tune stuff. You gotta like really sacrifice. So it's like, and you gotta even sacrifice your own emotions, your feelings, and whatever's going on. Like, so I'll be like, man. So I'll be trying to, like, that's why I'll be like, oh. But that's why I'm like, I gotta do something. I gotta play golf. I gotta play golf.
Period.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So now, man. But now, man. Other than that, shoot. Man, how the kids? How you raise the kids though?
And this is
in this generation, you got a wow, you got an adult, you got a couple of teenagers and a preteen.
It's definitely been we're still learning. We're still learning. Things are definitely way different. And it's crazy because I'm like a boot camp kind of guy.
Man.
So like, that's how I run my household, and so my wife is definitely like the softer end, like, yo, like that's too hard, but me, I'm just like, nah, like they got to get it right. And so it's just like, it's crazy because it's like, okay, well, I worked so hard and I did all this, I sacrificed this so my kids can have more than what I had growing up. And it's like, now they have it. And I'm just like, dang, I wish, like, man, y'all got too much, and so it's like, you're kind of on the other side of things. And then just with technology, it's just, it's crazy because it's like I'm still like, you know, a lot of people like their kids, like my oldest daughter was like, she was asking for a cell phone like in early middle school. And I'm just like, what you need a cell phone for? Everybody else has one. I'm like, and I said, where were you ever at where you need a cell phone? And she was like, well, you know, what if I'm in school? I said, every classroom has a phone.
We used to be at Astor World.
Yeah.
With no
phone.
Not even no coin.
None,
no trains even call.
No.
We over there asking them. But
I'll drop you off at this time. I'm going to be back at this time. Y'all be right
here
here when I come roll through to pick you up. Like, yeah. So, and I know times is like different now, but it's just really trying to limit, you know, their exposure. I want to say like as much as we can, right? There's things now like that we're inclined, ISD, they go to, you know, like we're inclined ISD and, cause we're like in the Springtown ball area and, like all there's like you know, now I have 2 in middle school. Well, they have Chromebooks and everything they do is on Chromebooks. And it's like they have like we have a cell phone that stays at the house, and we have an extra cell phone for the younger 2 that stays at the house. And you know, if they go somewhere to a friend's thing or whatever, they can kind of take it with them. Yeah. Because you know then they need it then. But other than that, we try to limit their exposure. But it's like now we can't because like they have it. It's like they come home. What is the first thing they do? They're on the laptop.
That's managing it.
Yeah, and so it's like, you know, now I feel like it makes it harder for us as parents because, you know, before, like my oldest daughter, she didn't have Chromebooks. You know, it was before Chromebooks. Yeah. Like, and so it's like before Chromebooks, it's like, you want a cell phone? Nope. You don't need a cell phone. Like, oh, we got an extra cell phone, but it's gonna stay at the house. Yeah. You know, you don't need it. You know, and so I'm just like, yeah. So I'm like, if you need to call your friend, you use one of our phones or you whatever, right? But now it's just like, I mean, they got a computer everywhere they go at school. You know, we can't control them when they're at school. Like we don't, you know, as a and I was teaching for a little bit at Westfield.
You can't even communicate with your mom and daddy at school.
Yeah,
Can you bring me Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
and all the drop-offs that they have.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because it's like, you know,
Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, everything dropped out to them from every day.
Cause I was telling my wife, I'm like, yeah, it's different. Like, cause I still don't think, like, I think now, like maybe post COVID, like I think they may have laptops at Westfield, maybe, probably not. I don't think every student has a laptop now, but like.
I know they had a program when I was working there for a little second, for off season, they had a program, but only that program, and it was in the Blue Hallway. They had a program, but only them kids
have laptops because they may not have them at home.
I'm not sure in the sense, but now it's like, I think it's almost because my daughter she 13, she at a school in spring and they got Chromebooks.
So yeah, I think everybody's so I think now it's everybody has one, but like before, you know, it's just like you're in class, you can tell like, okay, if it's on pen and paper, you know if a student's not paying attention, you know if a student's not on the phone because they're not looking at you, they're not looking at the paper, they're not writing. But now it's like everybody's facing the computer screen. So then now you got to like, okay, well, do they have what they're supposed to have on their computer screen? Are they playing a game at the same time on the side? Are they doing this? And it's just like, you know, it's going to be harder to control them at school. Then it's going to be harder to control them at home because it's like, you know, my middle daughter, you know, we have to make sure we stay on her because it's just like, okay, you know, she's missing assignments. I'm like, hey, you know, where's this? Where's that? You know, my wife really is the one that's really on it. And I have to backdoor be like, hey, pull this up. Let me see this. Let me see that. But it's just harder to control things now, I think, with technology. So, yeah, it's just a little different, I guess, in terms of like raising kids nowadays. But I still
you got to build the integrity ASAP.
Yeah,
because it used to be the village.
Yeah,
like you can't go nowhere.
Yeah,
everybody know what's going on.
Yeah,
even the homies, the homies go like, no, not the homies like they just go with it. They don't, they ain't gonna try to tell you nothing else. Yeah, they don't know no better.
You know, you used to get on the phone and be on the phone with your friend. And
three-way.
Mama get on there. Hey, I get on the phone.
Yeah, somebody else pick up the line or
you had to I'll call y'all back, man.
Yeah,
they don't get to enjoy that though. But that's the beauty of it, you know, and that's just having integrity, character, and building those. You know, having that foundation. I mean, that's why we from the field, like, and that's why we are who we are, and that's why a lot of people, you know, in our surrounding areas always look at us, and you know. And that's such because the era we grew up in, and there was that. But also, man, like you say, the football program and the sports program and just that aura we carry, like, you know, it really everybody loved us. When we go elsewhere, we superstar.
Yeah.
Like, you from Westfield?
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah,
it ain't
we're on
nothing
the map
like,
now, for
yeah,
real. Like
yeah,
before,
yeah.
not so much. Now it's just like, yeah, people know who we are.
Mm-hmm.
They know who Westfield is. You know, it's probably not, to the same extent as North Shore or anything like that. But it's like we're right there.
Yeah.
You know, when you mention Westfield, they know everybody know
Yeah.
who Westfield. They're not like, oh, where's what? Like, no, they know where Westfield is. They know who Westfield is because like, yeah, it's just.
Across the state.
It's balling, yeah.
Across the state.
Yeah.
Not just in
Not just Houston. Yeah. Like, yeah, they know who Westfield is. So,
man, B.
That's all I got,
man, Tony, we appreciate you, man. What's one thing? Let's say a couple of things you would tell the younger generation, especially our kids at Westfield, because we love y'all.
Yeah.
We be tough on y'all because we want the best for y'all, and we know what the best is. You know what the kind of grit that you need to get out in this real world. Either going to college or having your own business. Just being, especially this day and age, being an entrepreneur. Whatever your dreams is, like, you can achieve them. I promise you this, but you got to put the work in. We got to put the work in. However, even when you failing, you learning, because you learn through your failure. That's my 2 cents with it. What you think, Tony?
And I would say this is just a message for not even just athletes, but all kids, Westfield or any of the spring ISD schools. Because especially when I was there, I had, like so many kids, I'd be like, man, I hate it here. Like, man, that's, I hate it here. And I'm just like, look, like, I went to the same school. Like, it wasn't much different when I was there. It's probably like, it was harder to probably pack because they failed kids back then.
Yeah, they did.
We had, I think we had a class of 900 something kids, and only 822 of us walked across the stage. So.
We just talked about this. We just talked about this.
Yeah, so it's like,
they'll
back then they'll fail you. So, things they're not the same now, and I don't think this is not just spring. I think this is across the board. Even just so now what happens is you just kind of get pushed through. So people feel like, man, I just they feel like they're at like a lack or a disadvantage because you're there. Like, there are disadvantages, not of being there, but just of your situation, your environment, the things around you. But in terms of the education, it's just like, man, it is what you make of it. You can learn as much as you want to learn, and you can learn as little as you want to learn, and you can both walk out with a degree. But at the end of the day, I'm like, it's about, the effort that you put in, the skills that you learn, because like a lot of things, people graduate, some of them graduate, they try to go to college. I've heard, when I was there that, a lot of the kids went to college and they didn't make it because they weren't prepared. They had a degree, a piece of paper that let them get into college, or a diploma. But then it's just like, when they got to college, it's like they didn't make it or they struggled because it's like, man, it was just so easy. I got through and I got A's and B's and didn't have to do no work. But it's like, it's not like that in college, So I feel like, it is what you make of it. What you put in is what you're going to get out. If you put in a little bit, you still going to have something at the end, but it's not going to be very much. And it's not going to help you. It's not going to sustain you. It's not going to benefit your future. So for me, it's just like my mentality even back then, and I tell kids this now, like, the harder you grind now, the easier life will be when you're older.
Man.
And it's just like, do you want to play now and have fun now because you're young, and then you're going to work a lot harder for a lot longer? Or do you want to put the work in now so then that way you're not working hard for the rest of your life? And so I feel like that's my message to them. It's just like, I know you're young. I know you want to have fun because it seems like everybody else is having fun.
Man.
But it's just like,
at
some point
in
time, yeah. It's like at some point in time, you just have to realize, like, okay, am I going to really put in this time and work hard for, these 8 years, whether it's the 4 years in high school and then the 4 to 5 years in college?
Yeah.
Am I going to work hard for these 9 years to set myself up to when I'm, 45, 50? 55, I'm looking at possibly retiring or having, whatever, or do you want to play for the next 8 to 9 years and then turn around and then work for the next 40 to 50 years until you're 75 before you retire because you you don't have a choice. You
Be
know,
so working so long, your grandkids retire before you do.
yeah. So
Like-
yeah, I mean that's my message. And like I said,
Yeah.
it can come from anybody. It doesn't matter like where you grew up. It doesn't matter the location you grow up in. It doesn't matter what you grow up with. You know, it's like if you're in school, make the best of it. Learn as much as you can. Do as much as you can. You know, get as much out of it. You know, because it's free. It's there for you. You can do as little with it as you want, or you can do as much of it as you want. And I would say do as much as you as much of it as you can. To get the best out of it. And then same thing if you're, you know, if you go to college, if that's the route you're going, or you decide not to go to college and go another route, get the most of it out. Like, you know, the most you can get out of it, you know, to set yourself up, you know, for the future. Like it's not about right now. The stuff you're doing right now is not about right now.
Yeah.
It's about 20 years from now, 30 years from now. That's when you're
Yep.
going to see the
Yep.
fruits of the labor that you do
This-
for the next, you know,
Plant them seeds.
8 years. So
Plant them
Yeah.
seeds now. Plant as many of them because they'll give to you right now. You
Yeah.
got a lot of grace. They get a lot of, I tell the kids, they get a lot of grace.
yeah.
Man, but I appreciate you, Tony, man, coming out here, showing us some love.
Yeah.
Me and my boy B
Yeah,
for
bro.
the Field Podcast, episode 1. Hope y'all enjoyed it. We definitely enjoyed it. I know we're going to talk more once we get done. But
Yeah.
hey, y'all tune in, subscribe to the page. Much love to the community. We out.